What if the most coveted jewel in royal history was handed to Catherine in complete secrecy just 1 minute ago? While the world slept, a tiara, dripping with Queen Mary's legendary emeralds, landed in the Princess of Wales' hands. But the real bombshell, Camilla, the Queen herself, had no idea this masterpiece even existed. Tonight, we tear open the vault of royal secrets and expose the hidden war over jewels that could shatter the monarchy forever. Before we go deeper into what this really means for the royal family, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single update. In the dead of night, while London lay wrapped in silence, a single gloved hand moved through the shadows of Buckingham Palace. The timestamp burned across every screen in our minds. 1 minute ago, that gloved hand placed upon Catherine's head a tiara so radiant, so heavy with forgotten power, that the very air in the chamber seemed to tremble. Catherine stood motionless as the emeralds caught the faint light, their deep green fire dancing across her face. Tears welled in her eyes, not from weakness, but from the overwhelming surge of destiny rushing through her veins after months of silent battles with her own health. In that frozen moment, awe and iron determination collided within her, the kind of quiet strength that had carried her through every storm the palace had thrown her way. This was no ordinary jewel. This was Queen Mary's hidden masterpiece, a creation so potent it had been erased from every official record for more than 100 years, waiting like a sleeping dragon for the right soul to awaken it. Queen Mary had not simply collected beautiful things. She had forged weapons of influence. In her time, behind locked doors and whispered orders, she chose the rarest Colombian emeralds, each stone selected in absolute secrecy, defying the jealous eyes of court jewelers who believed they controlled every sparkle in the realm. The tiara was born as her ultimate symbol of unyielding power, a crown that whispered of control and endurance through betrayal and loss. And with it came the forbidden knowledge, a single handwritten note pressed into the velvet lining, written in Mary's own hand, for the true future queen only. Those words carried the weight of generations, a private decree that no public archive had ever touched. Camilla, now seated on the throne, had spent years believing she held dominion over every glittering piece in the royal collection. Her long obsession with jewels was no secret. She moved through palaces as if every diamond, every ruby, answered only to her. She thought she controlled them all. But this emerald tiara had never been part of her world. It existed outside her grasp, a silent challenge to the fragile new reign she had fought so hard to claim. The emotional stakes cut deeper than any blade. Catherine's quiet, steady rise stood in stark contrast to Camilla's carefully constructed position, setting the stage for a mother-in-law versus daughter-in-law power struggle that had been simmering beneath royal smiles for years. Catherine had endured public scrutiny, private pain, and the relentless pressure of expectation, emerging stronger, more resolute. Now this tiara had found her. It was not merely a gift passed down through bloodlines. This was a declaration of war, one that would force every hidden alliance and buried resentment into the open. The palace walls, already strained by shifting loyalties, seemed to close in tighter as the emeralds settled upon Catherine's brow, their glow promising both glory and unimaginable conflict. Whispers of what this meant began to ripple outward, threatening to crack the polished facade the monarchy had maintained for so long. But before we witnessed the moment the tiara changed everything, we must go back to the shadowed vaults where Queen Mary buried her greatest secret, and where it waited for the one woman strong enough to claim it. Queen Mary didn't just collect jewels, she weaponized them. Behind closed doors, she commissioned an emerald tiara so breathtaking, so laden with raw power, that she swore it would never see daylight until the monarchy faced its darkest hour. Locked away for decades, this masterpiece carried a curse. Only a queen with unbreakable will could wear it. And now, it has chosen Catherine, deep in the silence of forgotten vaults. Long before Catherine ever walked these halls, a young Queen Mary moved like a shadow among treasures. She defied every court jeweler who thought they alone decided what sparkled in the realm. With steady hands and a heart hardened by betrayal, she selected the rarest Colombian emeralds, stones that seemed to pulse with life under candlelight. Each choice was an act of quiet rebellion, a declaration that her power would outlast every lie told behind palace walls. Her own marriage had been shattered by secrets and infidelity, leaving scars that no public crown could hide. In those dark moments, the tiara became her silent armor, a glittering shield against the pain of being second best in her own home. Mary poured her fury and her unyielding strength into its design, turning cold stones into a legacy that would strike back when the time came. Years later, the tiara vanished into a hidden compartment carved deep within the royal vault, a place few eyes had ever seen. There it rested beside Mary's coded diary entries, words scratched in ink that spoke of destiny and warning. The entries hinted at a future where only a woman of true steel could claim what was hers. But the real danger lay in the attempts that followed. Later royals, driven by greed or curiosity, searched desperately for the missing emeralds. One after another, their efforts ended in sudden, whispered misfortune, accidents that felt too perfectly timed, falls in stairwells, illnesses that struck without warning. The palace hushed it up, but the pattern was unmistakable. Something guarded that tiara, something that did not want to be found. Whispers among the oldest servants spoke of a deeper curse. The emeralds, they said, carried the restless spirits of betrayed royal women across generations, women who had suffered in silence and now amplified the destiny of whoever dared to wear them. Their pain became power, their tears turned to unbreakable resolve. Catherine felt that pull even before she fully understood it. In the quiet of her own thoughts, hesitation gripped her heart. Could she truly bear this weight after everything she had already endured? The doubts swirled, heavy and relentless. Yet in the next breath, those same doubts ignited into fierce resolve, a fire that burned away fear and left only certainty. She was not just inheriting a jewel, she was stepping into a bloodline that had chosen her above all others. Every trace of the tiara had been deliberately erased from official inventories, wiped away with careful strokes of ink and forgotten orders. No ledger mentioned it, no photograph recorded its glory. It existed only in memory and in the hidden heart of the monarchy itself. Mary had hidden it perfectly, sealing its power until the monarchy stood on the edge of its darkest hour. But bloodlines have a double A of calling their own, and the call has now reached Kensington Palace, pulling Catherine into a destiny Camilla never imagined. It was past midnight when a trusted aide slipped Catherine a single key and a note that read only, "Mary's wish." No one else in the palace knew. Not Charles, not William, and certainly not Camilla. What happened in that underground chamber will redefine the future of the crown. Because when Catherine lifted the lid, the emeralds seemed to ignite, as if they had been waiting for her alone. The palace corridors stretched endlessly that night, each step echoing like a warning. Rain hammered against the ancient windows as Catherine moved alone, her heart pounding so fiercely she feared the sound might betray her. She glanced over her shoulder again and again, every shadow seeming to reach out, every distant footfall making her breath catch. The single key burned in her palm, heavier than any crown she had ever worn. This was no ordinary summons. This was Mary's final command, reaching across time, pulling her toward a truth the living had tried to bury. Deeper she went, descending into the cold belly of the palace, where secrets festered, untouched for decades. The air grew thick, damp, with the weight of forgotten promises. Her pulse thundered in her ears, matching the storm raging outside. One wrong turn, one curious guard, and everything would shatter before it even began. At last, the hidden door yielded. Catherine stepped into the vault, the beam from her small light cutting through centuries of dust. Her hands trembled violently as she approached the compartment that had remained sealed since Mary's day. The moment her fingers brushed the lid, an electric jolt surged through her, raw and undeniable. It wasn't fear alone that made her shake. It was recognition. The emeralds inside seemed to awaken, their deep green fire flaring as if they had been starving for her touch. She lifted the tiara slowly, and in that breathless instant the world narrowed to a single truth. It fit her perfectly. Every curve, every stone settled against her brow, as though it had been crafted for her head alone, molded by destiny rather than human hands. The connection was immediate, overwhelming, a surge of power and purpose that flooded her veins and left her gasping. Yet doubt crashed in hard. Was she truly worthy? After all the suffering, the public judgment, the private battles with her own body, could she carry this legacy without breaking? The question tore at her, threatening to pull her under. But then something deeper stirred, a fierce inner strength that rose like a tide. She embraced the weight, letting it settle into her bones. This was her moment, her destiny. In the darkness, a shadowy figure stirred, a loyalist tied to Mary's ancient line, who had waited years for this exact night. He stepped forward just enough for Catherine to see him, then dropped to one knee, swearing silent allegiance with eyes full of fire. No words were needed. The pact was sealed in that glance. While all this unfolded in the depths, Camilla slept peacefully in her chambers above, utterly unaware that the balance of royal power had just shifted forever. The emeralds had chosen. The old order was already cracking. Catherine left that vault transformed, but every secret this explosive eventually leaks, and the first crack in the facade is about to reach the one person who must never know. Camilla has spent years curating her image as the ultimate jewel collector, the woman who tamed the monarchy. She's worn the grandest diadems, claimed the rarest pieces, yet there was one emerald masterpiece she never even suspected existed. And now it sits on Catherine's head. How did the Queen miss the greatest royal heirloom of the 20th century? For years, Camilla had moved through the palaces like a conqueror, draping herself in the most dazzling symbols of power the crown could offer. Publicly, she radiated triumph, every Tiara moment carefully staged to show a queen who had finally seized her rightful place. Yet behind those polished smiles lurked a private frustration that gnawed at her relentlessly. No matter how many priceless gems passed through her hands, something always felt missing, an emptiness she could never quite name. Deep down, the insecurities of the outsider queen refused to die. She had fought tooth and nail to reach the throne, enduring decades of judgment and whispers that she would never truly belong. Every new jewel was another proof that she had won, another shield against the voice that whispered she was still second best. Court insiders now reveal the shocking truth. Camilla had demanded complete access to every royal inventory, insisting on knowing every piece under her reign. Her orders were clear and absolute, yet when it came to this one emerald tiara, the response was always subtle deflection, a quiet denial wrapped in protocol and tradition. Someone, somewhere, had made sure that particular secret stayed buried. There were moments when Camilla came dangerously close to uncovering clues. A stray remark in a private meeting, an old ledger left open just a fraction too long. Each time, royal duty or an urgent engagement pulled her attention away at the exact critical second, as if fate itself conspired to keep her blind. Those near misses only deepened the growing rivalry that had been simmering between her and Catherine for years. It was more than simple jealousy. It was a generational clash, the established queen versus the younger woman whose quiet strength threatened to eclipse everything Camilla had built. In one whispered conversation that still chills those who overheard it, Camilla had laughed off the very idea of lost Mary jewels. Myths and fairy tales, she had said with a dismissive wave, her voice dripping with certainty. Nothing in this palace escapes me. That single moment of arrogance now hangs like a blade above her head, because the emeralds are no myth. They rest on Catherine's brow, burning with a light Camilla has never known. The contrast cuts deep. Camilla's hard-won success now stands beside the quiet suffering of feeling perpetually on the outside, while Catherine's steady rise exposes every crack in the older queen's armor. Camilla's ignorance was bliss until the emeralds began to shine brighter than any crown she has ever worn, forcing a reckoning that could split the royal family in two. Alone in her mirror, Catherine placed Queen Mary's emerald tiara on her head for the first time. The reflection staring back wasn't just a princess, it was a queen in waiting. Tears streamed down her face as the weight of generations pressed upon her. In that moment, she understood. This wasn't jewelry, it was a throne disguised as emeralds, and Camilla was never meant to sit on it. The room was hushed, the only sound her own uneven breathing as she stood before the glass. With trembling fingers, she lifted the tiara and lowered it onto her brow. The moment the emeralds touched her skin, something inside her cracked open. A wave of raw vulnerability surged through her, so powerful that her voice broke in a soft, involuntary sob. These were not tears of sadness alone. They carried centuries of pain, of women who had loved fiercely yet suffered in silence, their dreams crushed beneath the wheels of duty and betrayal, each emerald now burned with meaning. One for the queen forced into a loveless marriage, another for the mother whose children were taken from her arms, still another for the voice that was never allowed to speak. All those filled longings, all that quiet agony, seemed to flow into Catherine, finding their fulfillment at last through her. She felt them, she carried them, and in carrying them, she became more than herself. Love for her family flooded her heart at the same time, warm and fierce. William, the children, Charles, how could she wear something that so clearly challenged the hierarchy they all lived under? The conflict tore at her, pulling in opposite directions until she could barely breathe. Part of her wanted to tear the tiara off and hide it away forever, protecting the fragile peace they had built. Yet another part, deeper and stronger, refused to look away. This was her truth. This was her path. The tiara did not merely rest upon her. It amplified everything she was. A quiet glow seemed to radiate from within her, an otherworldly authority that made her stand taller, breathe steadier, see clearer. In that private moment, she felt both utterly alone and profoundly connected to something far larger than any palace intrigue. Suddenly, a sound in the hallway froze her blood. Footsteps. William's familiar stride coming closer, her heart slammed against her ribs. If he walked in now, if he saw her like this, the secret would spill out before she was ready. She held her breath, every muscle tense, waiting for the door to open and everything to shatter. The footsteps paused, then continued past. The danger slipped away, leaving her shaking with relief and a fresh surge of resolve. As the adrenaline ebbed, the tiara seemed to whisper to her, soft voices brushing against her mind like silk over steel. Secrets of past betrayals rose unbidden, fragments of pain and power that had been locked away for decades. They did not frighten her, they armed her. Catherine stood there, tears still glistening on her cheeks, and felt the full force of her isolation transform into something unbreakable. Her quiet strength had never burned brighter. Catherine dried her tears and made a vow that night, a vow that will soon collide with Camilla's world in the most public and devastating way possible. It started with one loyal maid who saw the emeralds glistening. Then a footman overheard a conversation. Within hours, the palace was buzzing with the impossible. Catherine now possesses a tiara Camilla never knew about, the question tearing through every corridor: who will tell the queen? And what price will they pay when the emerald fire finally reaches her? The chain reaction began in the dim hours after midnight. A young maid, still trembling from what she had glimpsed in Catherine's private chambers, could not hold her tongue. She whispered the impossible to a trusted footman in the servants' passage. He, in turn, passed the explosive secret to another, then another. Shadowy figures moved like ghosts through the back corridors, notes changing hands with frantic speed, each exchange heightening the danger. No one meant to betray the crown, yet the words refused to stay buried. Loyalty to Catherine burned in their hearts. She had always shown them kindness, remembered their names, carried herself with a grace that felt genuine in a world of masks, but fear of Camilla's wrath clawed even deeper. Everyone knew the stories of those who crossed the queen. Careers ended overnight. Reputations were crushed with a single cold glance. The servants found themselves trapped between two fires. Protect the princess who had earned their quiet devotion, or shield themselves from the queen who could destroy them all. Every attempt to smother the rumor only fed its fury. "Speak of this and you will regret it," hissed one senior housekeeper. Yet the very warning sent the story racing faster through the kitchens and attics. The more they tried to silence it, the louder the wisp. Ears grew, twisting and multiplying, until the entire palace pulsed with tension. Servants exchanged glances during duties, their faces pale, their movements jerky. The air itself felt electric, heavy with the knowledge that something monumental had shifted, and no one could stop it. Now, the first crack appeared during a joint public appearance. Camilla stood beside Catherine, both women smiling for the cameras, yet something felt violently wrong. Camilla sensed it immediately, a subtle change in Catherine's posture, an unfamiliar light in her eyes. a presence that seemed to command the room in a way Camilla had never experienced. The Queen's smile faltered for the briefest second, her instincts screaming that she was being challenged on a level she could not yet name. That fleeting discomfort sent fresh panic rippling through the staff who witnessed it. The indirect confrontation hung in the air like smoke, thick and suffocating. Then came the shocking revelation that pushed everything toward the edge. A senior courtier, a man who had served 3 monarchs and prided himself on iron discretion, reached his breaking point. In a private moment of conscience, he confessed to a trusted ally that he had known about the tiara's existence for years and had helped keep it hidden. His voice cracked as he admitted the burden had become unbearable. The emerald secret was no longer contained. It was alive, spreading, hungry. The whispers have reached critical mass, and now the Queen is asking questions that no one dares answer, leading us straight into the heart of the royal storm. The doors slammed shut. Camilla stood inches from Catherine, eyes blazing. "Show me this tiara everyone is talking about." Catherine, calm as ice, slowly lifted the emerald masterpiece into the light. The silence that followed was deafening. In that single moment, decades of carefully constructed power crumbled. Camilla's face shock, betrayal, fury will haunt the monarchy forever. This is the confrontation no one was supposed to witness. The air in the private chamber turned to ice as the 2 women faced each other. Camilla's breath came in short, furious bursts. Her hands clenched at her sides, knuckles white with the force of emotions she could no longer contain. "How dare you?" she hissed, voice low and venomous. "How dare you hide something like this from me?" Catherine remained perfectly still, the emerald tiara resting in her hands like a living flame. She met Camilla's gaze without flinching, her calm exterior hiding the storm raging inside her own heart. The physical tension crackled between them, thick enough to choke on. Every inch of space felt charged, every second stretched into eternity. Camilla's pain poured out raw and unfiltered. She had fought for years to claim her place, endured public humiliation, private heartbreak, and endless doubt, only to feel robbed of her destiny in this single devastating instant. "I am the Queen," she cried, voice cracking with the weight of betrayal. "Everything in this palace belongs to me. Everything." Catherine's response was quieter, yet it cut deeper than any shout. "This was never yours to claim," she said softly, lifting the note from Queen Mary and reading the words that had waited decades to be spoken aloud. For the true future queen only, the ancient declaration hung in the air, leaving Camilla speechless, her mouth opening and closing, without sound as the truth slammed into her like a physical blow. Accusations exploded between them then, sharp and merciless. Camilla hurled words like weapons, jealousy, manipulation, hidden agendas designed to undermine her from the very beginning. "You've always wanted my crown," she accused, eyes wild. "You've plotted and waited for the perfect moment to strike." Rhine absorbed each blow, her own inner turmoil finally breaking through the surface. Tears of frustration and sorrow glistened in her eyes as she defended herself, revealing the deep conflict she had carried since the night in the vault. She loved her family, she loved the institution, yet the tiara had awakened something in her that refused to bow. Both women stood exposed, their vulnerabilities laid bare in the most brutal way. Camilla's hard-won success now tasted like ashes, while Catherine's quiet strength suddenly looked like rebellion. The layered pain echoed through history. This was no new feud. Royal mothers and daughters-in-law had torn each other apart for centuries over power, legacy, and love. The same poisonous mix of jealousy and duty that had destroyed relationships in the past now threatened to consume these 2 women completely. The suspense was unbearable. Would this end in broken tears and fragile reconciliation? Or would it ignite an all-out war that could tear the monarchy apart? The confrontation left scars deeper than any duel could heal, but the real battle was only beginning because the world was about to find out. Within hours of the leak, the internet ignited. Catherine's secret emerald tiara trended worldwide. Paparazzi swarmed. Experts scrambled, and Camilla forced to smile through the ultimate humiliation. This isn't just about jewels, it's about who truly reigns. One tiara, 1 minute, one seismic shift that could rewrite the British monarchy's future. The news exploded like wildfire across every screen on the planet. Hashtags surged, videos looped, and millions watched in stunned disbelief as the story of Queen Mary's hidden emeralds ripped through social media at lightning speed. Expert panels appeared overnight, voices rising in panic as historians and royal watchers debated the impossible. How could such a masterpiece have stayed concealed for so long? How could the Queen herself have been kept in the dark? The frenzy fed on itself, each new post more sensational than the last, turning a private palace drama into a global spectacle. While the world feasted on the scandal, Camilla stood trapped in the spotlight, forced to maintain the royal mask during public appearances, her smile brittle and her eyes haunted by the ultimate humiliation. The contrast was merciless. Catherine's quiet grace suddenly looked like destiny fulfilled, while Camilla's hard-won throne trembled beneath her. People everywhere felt the emotional pull. Supporters flooded the internet with messages of solidarity, hailing Catherine as the people's future queen, the woman who embodied strength after suffering, resilience after scrutiny. They saw in her a fresh hope, someone who had endured health battles and relentless pressure yet emerged with an inner light that the emeralds only magnified. Messages poured in by the millions. Catherine wears the future. The monarchy needs her strength now more than ever. Yet not everyone celebrated. Bitter conflicts erupted in comment sections and television studios. Calls grew louder for Camilla to step back, voices demanding she make way for the younger, more relatable figure who clearly carried the favor of both history and the public. Debates raged over royal legitimacy itself. Debates. Was bloodline enough? Or did true queenship demand something deeper, something the emeralds seemed to recognize in Catherine alone? Then came the shocking twist that no one saw coming. Hidden deep within Queen Mary's long-forgotten will, a clause activated the moment the tiara was claimed. It declared that whoever wore the emeralds held an unbreakable symbolic authority, one that could influence future successions in ways no living monarch had anticipated. The revelation sent fresh shockwaves through the institution, exposing fractures that had been papered over for decades. The monarchy's carefully maintained image of unity cracked wide open, revealing old rivalries, buried resentments, and a power structure more fragile than anyone had dared admit. In the midst of the chaos, Catherine released a poised public statement. Her words were measured, speaking of strength and unity, yet beneath the surface they hinted at something far more complex, perhaps even division. She thanked the public for their support, while carefully avoiding any direct challenge to Camilla. The message landed like a velvet-covered blade, elegant yet impossible to ignore. As the emeralds continue to burn brighter than ever, one question remains unanswered, and it may destroy everything the royals have fought to protect. The tiara has spoken. Catherine now holds the key to a new royal era. But as Camilla plots in the shadows and the family fractures, one truth echoes through the palaces. The emeralds choose their queen, and they have already chosen. The monarchy will never be the same again. Imagine the years unfolding ahead, Catherine stepping forward with quiet fire in her eyes, the emeralds resting on her brow like a promise finally kept. Her reign could bring a fresh wind through dusty halls, a blend of compassion and unshakable strength that heals old wounds while carving a bolder path for the crown. Crowds would cheer, not out of duty, but genuine hope, seeing in her the future they have longed for after years of turmoil and doubt. Yet even as that vision glows with possibility, darker shadows linger. Camilla moves through the corridors in silence, her mind already weaving plans born from humiliation and loss. What quiet revenge brews behind those composed features? What alliances will she call upon when the moment strikes? The family stands fractured, smiles forced for cameras, while private hearts bleed with betrayal and uncertainty. The emeralds have made their choice clear, but power never surrenders without a fight. This is the crossroads, where destiny collides with raw human struggle. Triumph and suffering twist together once more, leaving every royal soul torn between loyalty and survival. The question burns brighter than the stones themselves. Which side of history will you stand on? Will you watch the old order cling desperately to what it once held? Or will you witness a new era rise on the quiet power of a woman who dared to claim Hat was waiting for her? One final twist still hides in the depths of Mary's legacy, a revelation so explosive it could rewrite everything we think we know. The emeralds are not finished speaking yet. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in next one.